Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. And did we tell you to buy the bottom? No, we don't tell you to do anything. We tell you what we're doing. And if you ever want to know what the smart money is doing, what we're following, we describe it every day on Market Rebellion, as well as here on the Rebel's Edge. So let's take a look at what happens after Treasury Secretary Bessent comes back with some great news out of Switzerland on China. We'll have that and more on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang!
And we're off. I'll tell you, you want to talk about a big weekend. This might have been one of the biggest weekends in one hell of a long time for the markets, particularly. Yes. Maybe in sports too.
Yeah.
I mean, or just some of the stuff that's going on in the sports world as well. And there's NBA. But yeah, this whole thing with Bessent, man, whoo, that was huge. And obviously look at what the markets are doing with it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that we should have been watching, Pete, even closer than you and I watched a lot of what was going on in various back channel conversations and all the rest. But once China filled up the warehouses and there was nowhere else to put the stuff that they make, because, take a look at the Port of LA, folks. There is nothing coming into the Port of LA in the last week. It all came in before the tariffs really set in. And if that stuff's just sitting on docks and filling up warehouses, they got nowhere else to put it. That means they got to shut factories down. That means that the populist leader in China ain't going to be the leader for long. People questioned us on that, Pete. But we said, yeah, he will wake up with a Colombian necktie if he doesn't take care of these guys, because that dog doesn't hunt, as they say. He has to keep those factories roaring, Pete, so that people get paid, so that people can move in China from poverty into the middle class and so forth. And is it tough work conditions? You bet it is. Mm-hmm. And is there some slave labor? You bet it is. But he's got to keep, basically 1 billion people happy. Otherwise, he's done.
Yeah.
And I think cooler heads prevailed, and that's why we saw the deal over the weekend, Pete.
Yeah, Bessent was he's the right guy, isn't he? I mean, he just seems like he's got it together, and he did a great job. And from the sounds of things, and everybody's going to always tilt the way they want to or whatever, but the sound of it all, John, yes, it's 90 days, gives everybody an opportunity to kind of cool off a little bit, and they pulled down some of those numbers in a big way. I think this was as good a meeting as we possibly could have had. Is there absolutely decisions? No, but we've got some time and we've pulled it back a lot. So that certainly is a huge fix of something that was going to be hanging over us for a long time.
And let's dive right into macro, Pete, since we're sort of in it already. Yeah. I'm going to say, in addition to that, we have CPI coming our way this week. We've got Walmart earnings and retail sales coming our way this week. So there's a lot of data coming our way. And keep in mind, this will be the first report with all of the tariff information in there. In other words, how much did consumers cut back, Pete? Maybe they just sort of shopped a little smartly instead of just buying whatever was jacked up. And by the way, Pete, also, down here in Puerto Rico, I went to the Best Buy. I saw probably 20 70-inch, 80-inch TVs under $600, just stacked up. So they filled these stores up with stuff ahead of the tariffs. And I don't think people are stupid. I think if something was jacked up, they would wait. Even if they wanted it, they'd say, I could put off that purchase. Let's see how long these tariffs stay in place. What do you got for macro, Pete?
Well, John, from a macro perspective or a fantastic futures, I'll give you the macro. To me, it all ends up truly being Bessent. I mean, end of story. There is nothing bigger than that and in more of an influence to the markets than that. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. The market was up 1,000 points, and in the pre-market it was 500, then it moved higher, and then next thing you know, it's 1,000 points. That's a major move, man. That's a monstrous move. If you don't mind, I'll jump right into the volatility index, and I'll say this for fantastic futures. John, we actually, it's interesting. We're down 12% today. We're in the 19s, the low 19s, but we've even gotten below 19 today already. Now, we talked about this last week. I think it was when I was with Justin. We talked about, hey, man, there's a no man's land that exists in volatility, and that no man's land is probably somewhere between 23 and 26. It's really not giving you what you need, and you can't really make much off of that. Now that you're back under 20, and we're just $2 away, John, from 17, which is where the volatility index had been. There's a lot to be said. Oh, and by the way, we did get some put buying, and some of that put buying actually stepped in at the very end of April, on the 29th of April.
Look at that, folks.
They stepped in November 15 puts. They bought 30,000 of those puts, by the way. Gives you a little bit of an idea with the volatility index trading just under 25. They were buying those 15 puts. I would say that somebody big out there decided, you know what? We've seen some highs. Maybe we'll get back down to the lower range as well.
Yeah, all we need. I mean, and Pete, with the earnings, which you've cited repeatedly, coming in 72% better than expectations, even with the tariffs, you take that tariff worry off the table. And like you and I said, we're Katie bar the door.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean we go straight up? Markets don't go straight up and they don't go straight down. Right. They back and fill, or they fall and then stabilize and then fall again and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't go like this and like this. You've got backing and filling. We're going to see more of that. Like Pete said, this is a 90-day pause. Take a look at gold. We talked about it all the way up, Pete, when they were buying gold miners, when they were buying GLD, when they were buying silver. Well, today's one of those days, and it ain't the end of the road, but gold is down $100 an ounce. Mm-hmm. That's about a 3% drop. Worth paying attention to, yes. Bitcoin doing very well, yes. And are either of those risk assets? Well, Bitcoin certainly is, and gold was like a safe haven, which it's been for thousands of years. So I'm going to say my fantastic future, Pete, is indeed gold. All right, let's take a look at Amazon, because they had a notable increase. And thank goodness for Jeff Bezos, Pete, because a little over a week ago, the guy that took over for him, I think his name's Jaffe, at Amazon, was going to say, you know what? These tariffs are really going to cost us a lot of money and this and that. And we're going to start putting little tariff notes on all of our products so people know that this isn't our fault. We're not marking it up. And it's kind of like, Bezos said, you're not going to say any of that. Because he said, look, we are a retailer. We're not a political organization. So you're not going to put any of that crap on our website, on these goods and services that could be purchased through Amazon. So Amazon, Pete, up as much as 9 or 10% today on this 90-day truce that you described. And we're seeing Amazon make some pretty strong moves. I'm thinking when we get the retail sales numbers, Pete, that people will have been prudent, not just spending wildly and waiting for things that they didn't need immediately. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And John, you just got to go back and take a look at what did the last quarter look like for Amazon. And I think it's important to look at that. So you look at the ad revenue growth. That was 19%. That doesn't sound so bad. The sales were up 9% in the first quarter, year over year. That's not so bad. AWS sales increased 17% year over year. So this is a company that's actually been doing extremely well. We know what the earnings look like now because they delivered it a while back. But yeah, you're exactly right, John. And by the way, it has come back and come back and come back, and it's now down just a couple, I think about 4 or 5% year to date is where Amazon sits. But it's up, as you said, about 7%, 8%, 9% today. So a pretty nice move to the upside. I like what we're seeing out of Amazon. And I'll tell you what, I think that you're exactly right. The retails are ripping when you look across the whole thing. And this 90-day truce gives everybody a bit of an opportunity to catch their breath and then let's get started and let's get this thing done and let's get everything back to being fair at some point.
Pete, on 3 at 3, which is a show that I do at 3 p.m. Eastern every day, folks, I talked about the July 185 calls being bought when the stock was 186. They were $1, obviously, in the money at that time. Well, today it trades $2.11. $2.11. So that's $26, folks. And those calls exploding to the upside. We also had calls again last week, 15,000. That's $1.5 million worth of the May 202.50 calls. So there's a lot to be thankful for with these moves that we're seeing in Amazon, Pete. And all you had to do was follow the smart money, folks, which is what we also did in Apple. Because Apple, they were buying the 27th of June. So that's the week after regular June expiration. They were buying the 27th of June 205 calls. The stock was 195. Apple had been punished pretty hard because we all know Apple has most of their dependence on China and Vietnam. So it's kind of tough for them when the president of the United States announces tariffs that are going to impact the goods that they're bringing in. And again, folks, the goods that they're bringing in are not $1,000 iPhone. It's what it costs to put the iPhone together, and then Apple marks it up. So could they have eaten a little bit of that? Of course. Would that eat into their profits? Of course. But today, Apple traded up to 211, Pete. Similar price to Amazon, and that one working for us pretty nicely as well.
Yeah, they even announced, they talked about record chip orders with Taiwan Semi, John. That's something I think is pretty positive. You look through the earnings, yes, there was a couple of bumps here and there, but the revenue is still up 5%. The earnings were up 8%. This is when they reported. And we do have something that's going to be into the future, I think, something very important. $500 billion they're going to put into facilities in the U.S. I like that. I like them to be more spread out, though, John. And I think the one thing that bothers me about Apple, and I think Tim Cook is finally realizing that this is not such a great idea, too much. When you've got 90% of the iPhones getting put together, John, it's happening in China. I don't really like that. So the idea of pulling some, maybe not even all, but something out of China, moving it somewhere else, then getting the U.S. more involved, I think you've got to have that type of a thing because you never know, right? Natural disasters can happen. You can have wars. We have wars going on all over the place these days. So all of that, I think, builds into, I think that's where Cook really, if he's been short-sighted, that's where it was. And I don't like that part of it at all. But I think if they can spread it out, Apple's got a chance to really run. They still, John, when you look at the company and you got free cash flow of what, $97 billion, I think that they're doing a lot of things right for Apple. But they need to continue to kind of figure out how they're going to work different parts of the world to be able to produce all the things that they do.
Keep in mind, folks, that the 52-week high is 260.
Yeah.
So does Apple have a little room to the upside? Yeah, I think it might. All right. NRG, Pete. I think for a while, didn't the Houston Stadium bear their logo, Pete? Their name, their brand, if you will, NRG Stadium or whatever. Anyway, NRG, it's an energy stock. What do? They produce energy. And I mean, they produce electricity. They use coal. They use natural gas. They use everything to produce the energy that we need. And we're going to need a lot more of it. Well, stock was up 10% in the pre. It's now up 24% on the day, Pete, because I'm thinking they're going to be doing just fine with people putting more demand on electricity, which is good for them, obviously, and they're ready to supply it. So they're one of those suppliers that has done a great job, I think. And this one off to the races, up 24% for a sleepy utility, Pete.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Well, and they, John, they did a lot of different things that they were talking about today that actually helped push this up even further. They hit a new 52-week high, by the way, today. They made a big purchase. Now, that excites me for two reasons. One, I like the fact $12 billion deal. It doubles the capacity of the generation that they're going to be producing, John. They also maintained their guidance, which is extremely aggressive with what they put out there. And also, When you look at the revenue, how about this? 8.5 billion. They were looking for 7.6 billion. All of these numbers are huge. I like that big number, about $12 billion worth, that's going to double the capacity. And why do I do that? Why do I say that? Well, the investment bank side. This fits right into whichever investment bank is a part of this whole thing. Is it Goldman? Is it Morgan? I don't know who it is. But I will tell you this. It just shows you that is still something that's happening. People said we're not going to see anything going on. There's going to slow down and everything. They're not slowing down, John. There's a lot of acquisitions out there. We actually have another one that we'll be talking about next.
Exactly. Pan American Silver, Pete, PAAS. And we would be right to basically pat ourselves on the back for catching the wave in silver and in gold, Pete. However, in this case, it's coming down fast, not just because silver's price is easing, Pete, but because they did a big deal. I mean, basically, they're going to acquire MAG Silver, the silver mines for MAG, for about $2 billion. So a lot of money out the door, but they're going to be pretty well positioned for silver to move significantly higher in the future. This week, this month, I don't know, but in the future, absolutely. So that's why they're down 15% today. They're down with the metal, and they're down because they spent a lot of money on another silver miner, Pete.
And those investment bankers just keep on going, John. Another $2 billion deal with that acquisition. Seems like that plays right into what I just said before. Goldman, yep. Morgan Stanley, all the rest of them. I think it all fits. They also, they had some pretty good numbers that they did put up, John. Their profit margins were up 22% year over year. The earnings were beat by 129%. I mean, they put up some pretty big numbers. Now, the stock is down today. That happens oftentimes when you're making acquisitions. But when I look at the numbers that they're putting up right now, they're pretty impressive. And it's an interesting spot for sure. Silver, it's never easy there. I think gold is far easier to read through than silver. But this is one that's going to be very interesting, I think, into the future, especially if we start to see silver make any kind of a substantial move, John. It's made some moves, but it's not been able to be sustainable. Up there at 35, they tried, and then it pulled back. At 33, it pulled back. So at some point in time, maybe we see silver take off to the upside, and that's going to really give these guys a big boost.
No doubt. And like I said, is that this week or this month? Probably not. No. But over time, this is an awful lot of silver reserves that they're going to have for when the precious metal goes higher, Pete. Mm-hmm. All right. We thought you guys would enjoy this. It's been a couple days since we had one of our sports highlights here. And one of Pete's pals, who he was hanging out with in Japan at the Japan Bowl back in his college days, was this gentleman, Mr. Bo Jackson, and might be the best to ever put on a chin strap as a running back, Pete. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, did fantastic things on the football field. In fact, one of the biggest egos in all of sports, Deion Sanders, when they asked him, well, who's the best? He said, ain't no doubt about it, Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson.
He's the greatest athlete ever. Honestly, I think he's the greatest athlete ever, John. And when you consider the track side of it, the football side of it, the baseball side of it, I mean, the guy, there is nothing the guy couldn't do. Bobsledding.
He and Herschel both kind of toyed around with that.
Yeah, they did.
But, yeah, take a look at this run. Just a simple pitch to the outside. Look at him just.
Look at the speed.
That's a defensive back that he's running away from. And those guys are usually the fastest.
And, John, I'll say this. He might be 225 pounds in these. He doesn't look it, but he is. The guy is jacked out of his mind. I mean, it's crazy. People used to go to Sox Park. They'd put 50,000 people down there, John, just to watch him hit batting practice before the damn games. I mean, that's how good the guy was. His football side, though, man.
Powerful dude. Powerful dude. And a great guy. Still lives in the Chicagoland area, as Pete knows.
Yep.
I won't say where, so he has a little more privacy. But yeah, he still lives in the Chicagoland area, and he's a hell of a bow hunter too, Pete. By the way.
Oh yeah, he makes it all himself too. I mean, the guy's a clever character, and Bo knows, as we all know. All right, John, let's jump into some of the sports that we've got. One of the things I wanted to touch on was this, and I did not see this coming, but Derek Carr decided, you know what? I'm walking away from the game, the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. Now, Derek Carr has been a lot of places, but specifically with the Raiders and all the rest of it. And, it's interesting because just last week we were talking about what piece do you need to the puzzle of a football team you've got to have? Well, it's quarterback. Well, Pittsburgh doesn't really have a quarterback right now. You know who else doesn't have a quarterback right now? Now it's New Orleans. So, I wonder if this is going to get Aaron Rodgers kind of getting out of bed and start thinking about something, John, because it could be pretty interesting. By the way, last year, the team went 0-7 when Carr wasn't quarterbacking the team. But they did draft a kid, that big kid out of Louisville, who's an older kid. He's like 24 or 5 years old, but Tyler Show. And then you've got Spencer Rattler. You've got another guy as a backup. So they need a quarterback in a bad way. They're going to be hunting around. They've had the room, John. And I just read an article where Aaron Rodgers said, you know what, I'd play for $10 million. Well, if he's a man of his word and it's not $30 million or something higher, but if he gets it at $10 million, why wouldn't check out? I mean, I love Pittsburgh, but it's another one. It would make a lot of sense. He'd probably have a little bit more camaraderie with the quarterback coach, who is actually the head coach. I think Kellen Moore would be really, really interesting to see how that whole thing could come together. Because one thing's for sure, we know who runs Pittsburgh. That head coach runs that team. And if you don't want to do what he doesn't want you to do, I'll tell you what, see you later. I think down in New Orleans, it might be a little bit different, but it also might be, something where it actually is a better fit. It might be a better fit. Great receivers, good offensive line, really good defense. There's a lot of things to it. What do you think of that one, John? I mean, now Aaron Rodgers has got two really, really interesting potential landing spots.
Yeah, he does. But like you say, Pete, if he picks New Orleans, it can't be as much because they got $50 million in dead money from Carr. Because they already had to take that salary cap hit. So they might be able to scrape together a way to get him, Pete, for, like you say, $10 million. But I still like, the idea of getting that monster that they got from Seattle, getting him the ball, because that guy is a man-child.
Yeah,
the wide receiver that, looks like a tight end but runs like a wide receiver. Meanwhile, they got a rookie, second-round pick, the 40th pick overall, which means he was, almost 100 picks ahead of Sanders, Pete. So they like this Tyler Shaw.
Yeah.
Do they like him enough to bet this season on that guy, or would they like to have Aaron Rodgers there for a year or two and then turn it over to Tyler? Or to, like you say, Rattler or one of these guys. I don't know, Pete. This is brand new information, but I would still be very tempted if I were Aaron Rodgers to take advantage of what they've got, because similarly, they've got a great defense.
Yep.
They've got great receivers now. They got rid of Pickens, who was a bit of a problem with the coach. And I think they're in pretty good shape up in Pittsburgh as well, if they get the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. How about the NBA, just real quick, John? I wanted to run on this one. The Cavaliers were one of the top teams the entire year. At some points, they were number one. At some points, they were number two. I don't think they even slipped below number two. But they're down now 3-1 to the Indiana Pacers. And you kind of wonder, John, I mean, is this going to be one of these collapses that a lot of people are going to say, hey, now, wait a minute, we didn't really see this one coming. They scored Indiana 80 points last night. They scored in the first half. Gives you a little bit of an idea how well they were playing and just the butt kicking that they actually gave them yesterday. But the other thing outside of that was just an update. But how about this? Cooper Flagg, because there's a lot of conversation going on, John, right now about where are people going to be in the draft, and the lotteries out there next. You've got Utah, Washington, Charlotte, and New Orleans all have a 14% chance of being the number one pick. I don't think there's any question at all, at least in my mind, that it's going to be Cooper Flagg, the kid out of Duke. He's a quality kid. He's been at a great, let's call it a franchise in Duke basketball for a long period of time. But he's only been there 1 year. But he's that good. He's so athletic. It's unbelievable. And I was going to compare him, not for the color of his skin or anything like that, but I was going to compare him to kind of a Larry Bird because he can do it all. And he's tall. He's not a 6'4" guy. He's a 6'8" guy or whatever he is. And it just shows you that this guy really has the potential to lead a team, I think, in the NBA. It's going to be pretty cool to see how it all pans out. But he's going to be the number one pick. But what do you think, John? Is there any comparables that you can think of for Cooper Flagg? He can do it all, and that's kind of what I like about Larry Bird. I mean, he played defense. He was great. His passing was unbelievable. The stuff behind the back and behind the shoulder, all that stuff is just great, and it's cool, and it's also, something that makes you an even better team. Who do you think he matches up? Is there anybody that you can think of that – because the guy can shoot the lights out of the ball.
He can shoot the lights out. He distributes the ball, as they say, as our buddy Charles Barkley would say, or your pal, Shaq. He distributes the ball pretty well. Yeah, he does. Shaq has the world's deepest voice. He is such an amazing human and a great investor. But it's not about Shaq. It's about Cooper Flagg. Pete, he makes almost as much as the average NBA rookie. I mean, the number one pick usually right now, I asked Grok this morning, makes about 10 million. The number two pick, about 9 million. And then it goes down from there. He's making, I think, 7 at Duke and having a great time. So, he plays a lot more games if he comes into the NBA. He's going to wear his body down more and all the rest. I mean, for the right sort of situation, if I'm Cooper Flagg, I stay at Duke because he's already making the money. It's not like the old days where you'd have to buy an insurance contract against your injury or whatever. He's already making the money. Like I say, I'm pretty sure it's $7 million a year, Pete.
It's crazy.
Collectively, and maybe New Balance might be his main sponsor. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, I think if that kid does come out for the draft, he is the number one pick overall. Mm-hmm. And again, a guy who's willing to share the ball and also willing to drop threes from all over the court and slam. There aren't a lot of guys that do all of those things, but the ones that do usually end up in the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to say, I'm not saying he's there, but I'm saying the guys that do what he can do usually end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, he's a player like Magic Johnson. He's a player, like Larry Bird. I mean, I think he's the fuel of a team coming down the court with the ball and whatever he wants to do. And he's got that size factor too. So there's a lot of reasons why I think that he's really a very special player. And I think he can be pretty physical if he wants to be. He probably might want to gain a few more pounds, but I think he could be pretty physical at the NBA level as well.
Well, folks, again, he is Pete Najarian. I'm John Najarian, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you check out the Twitter. He's at Pete Najarian, and I'm at John Najarian. Pretty easy. And make sure you follow the Rebels because we put out a lot of great information on our Rebel Twitter account as well. And we will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then.